September 5th in 1920, a party was happening in a luxury hotel in San Francisco. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was one of Hollywood's most famous comedians, more famous than Charlie Chaplin. That night, in one of the rooms, a young actress named Virginia Rappe became ill. 3 days later, she died. And from that moment, Fatty Arbuckle's life was over. Because the press made him a monster. Hollywood abandoned him, America hated him. But the truth was more complicated than anyone wanted to hear. Because Fatty Arbuckle was innocent. But that didn't matter. The damage was already done. Before we reveal how one party destroyed Hollywood's biggest comedian, hit subscribe for more shocking, untold stories about legends who were destroyed by lies. Roscoe Arbuckle was born in 1887 in Kansas. He had a very difficult childhood. His father abandoned him. His mother died early.
He was a 13-pound baby. Neighbors had joked. They called him Fatty. The name stuck. But Fatty turned his weight into a strength. He danced on vaudeville stages, did acrobatics, made people laugh. Nobody believed it. How could such a large man be so agile? In 1913, he came to Hollywood. He started working at Mack Sennett's Keystone Studios. Fatty immediately became a star, a genius of physical comedy. He was the one who discovered Buster Keaton. He made films with Charlie Chaplin. By 1917, Fatty Arbuckle was Hollywood's highest-paid actor. $1 million a year, an astronomical sum for that time. Everyone loved him. He was kind, generous, funny. He never yelled at anyone on set. He respected everyone. But one night, everything changed. However, Labor Day weekend, 1921, Fatty and his friends rented 3 suites at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco.
They threw a party. There was alcohol, music, dancing. It was prohibition, but the rules were different for the wealthy. Virginia Rappe, a 26-year-old young actress, came to the party. She was with her friend Bambina Maud Delmont. Virginia was a woman with pre-existing health problems, bladder infections, pain. But nobody knew. At some point, it was heard that Virginia had become ill in one of the rooms. She was screaming in pain. Fatty and his friends tried to help. They called a doctor. But Virginia's condition worsened. 3 days later, on September 9, Virginia Rappe died. Cause? Peritonitis. Ruptured bladder infection. Then the press got involved. Bambina Delmont told police. Fatty raped Virginia. He killed her. The newspapers went crazy. William Randolph Hearst's papers were especially merciless. Headlines: Fatty Arbuckle kills young girl. Hollywood monsters night of horror. None of it was true, but nobody cared.
Fatty was arrested, charged with murder. Hollywood was in a panic. For the first time, a star was involved in such a major scandal. Studios banned Fatty's films. All copies were collected and burned. Millions of dollars lost. Fatty became America's most hated man overnight. The trial began. It was a media circus. Journalists filled the courtroom. The prosecution claimed Fatty had attacked Virginia. Bambina Delmont was the key witness. But the defense revealed the truth. Bambina Delmont was a con artist. She'd blackmailed people before. She wasn't a credible witness. Virginia's autopsy report showed no evidence of rape. The cause of death was chronic bladder problems. Other guests at the hotel said Fatty had helped Virginia, that he hadn't attacked her. The jury was deadlocked. The first trial ended without a verdict. The second trial deadlocked again. A third trial was held. This time, the jury deliberated for only 6 minutes.
Verdict: not guilty. They didn't just say not guilty. They apologized. The jury wrote a formal statement. Roscoe Arbuckle is completely innocent. A great injustice has been done to him. But it was too late. Fatty had spent 18 months in trials. All his money was gone, spent on legal fees. Hollywood wouldn't accept him. His films were banned. No studio wanted to work with him. America doesn't love him anymore, they said. Fatty understood his career was over. He was only 34 years old. He started drinking. He fell into depression. His marriage fell apart. In an interview, he was asked, "Can you still do comedy?" Fatty replied, How can I smile? There is nothing left inside me. Years passed. Fatty couldn't make films under his stage name, so he used a pseudonym, William Goodrich. He directed small films. Nobody knew, because there was no name attached. Buster Keaton helped him. He found Fatty work, but quietly, because Fatty's name was still poison. In 1932, a miracle happened. Warner Brothers gave Fatty a chance. A series of short films. Fatty was excited. Maybe I can come back, he said. The first film was shot. It was successful. The second film was shot. That was good too. Fatty was hopeful again. On the night of June 29, 1933, Fatty and his wife had dinner with friends. Fatty was happy. He was laughing. I'm starting again, he said. Comedy is back. That night, when they returned to the hotel, Fatty had a heart attack. He was found dead in the morning. He was 46 years old. His funeral was modest. A few old friends. Buster Keaton came, through tears. The press ran small stories. Former comedian dies. Nobody apologized. Nobody said we were wrong. Fatty Arbuckle, though acquitted as innocent, had his life destroyed. Because the press didn't care about truth. They only wanted sensationalism. Hollywood couldn't take the risk. Only money mattered. And America wanted a victim. Fatty became that victim. Years later, historians re-examined the scandal. Virginia Rapp's death was caused by chronic health problems. Fatty wasn't guilty. Bambina Delmont had lied for money. Hearst newspapers had exaggerated for circulation. But these truths couldn't bring Fatty back. Modern film historians recognize Fatty's contributions. They know he was as important as Charlie Chaplin. But the general public still remembers the scandal, not the acquittal. The Warner Brothers contract that had given Fatty hope was for 6 films. He only completed 3 before his death. Those 3 shorts showed flashes of his old brilliance. The timing, the physicality, the joy that had made him famous. But you could see it in his eyes. Even when he was making people laugh, something was broken inside. Friends who saw him in those final years described a man haunted by what had been stolen from him. Not just fame or money, but his innocence, his joy, his ability to be Fatty Arbuckle. He'd been the biggest star in Hollywood, he'd mentored legends, he'd invented techniques that comedians still use today. And for what? To be destroyed by lies, to spend his final years working under fake names, to die just as he was finally getting a second chance. Buster Keaton, at the funeral, spoke briefly. Fatty taught me everything, he said. He was the gentlest man I ever knew, and they destroyed him for something he didn't do. Keaton kept one of Fatty's films in his private collection. He'd watch it sometimes, late at night, and weep for his friend, for the genius that was murdered by scandal. The trial transcripts tell a clear story. Every witness who actually saw what happened testified that Fatty was innocent, that he'd tried to help Virginia, that he'd called doctors, that he'd been worried and frightened. Not guilty. But the newspapers never printed those testimonies. They printed Delmont's lies. They printed speculation. They printed anything that sold papers. William Randolph Hearst later admitted his papers had gone too far. But that admission came decades after Fatty's death, after the damage was permanent. Virginia Rapp's family never blamed Fatty. They knew their daughter had been sick. They knew the truth. But their voices were drowned out by the machine of scandal. The ban on Fatty's films lasted years. When it was finally lifted, most of the films had been destroyed, lost forever, burned in studio lots to erase the scandal. Today, only fragments of Fatty Arbuckle's work survive. A few shorts, some clips, enough to see the genius, but not enough to understand the full scope of what was lost. Film preservationists call it one of the greatest tragedies in cinema history. Not just because a man's life was destroyed, but because so much art was destroyed with it. Fatty invented techniques that became standard in Hollywood. He pioneered the use of physical comedy in ways that influenced everyone from Chaplin to the Marx Brothers to modern comedians. But his name was erased, his contributions forgotten, because of one night, one lie, one scandal. Fatty Arbuckle was Hollywood's greatest comedian. He discovered Buster Keaton. He worked with Chaplin. But one night, one party, one death, and everything ended. The press made him a monster. Hollywood abandoned him. America hated him. The court cleared him, but nobody listened. Fatty died at 46, as a broken man. Because sometimes being innocent isn't enough. Sometimes perception is more powerful than reality. And Fatty Arbuckle became the victim of perception, Hollywood's first major victim, but not the last. The scandal created a template. When Hollywood needed a scapegoat, when the industry needed to prove it was moral, they'd sacrifice someone. Usually someone who couldn't fight back, someone whose career could be destroyed overnight. Fatty Arbuckle was the first, but countless others would follow. Blacklisted, banned, destroyed by rumor and innuendo. The machinery of scandal once created never stopped. It just found new targets. And Fatty Arbuckle, the gentle giant who made millions laugh, became its first casualty.